All right, if you guys want to make your way in here for Bible class time, if you want to join us, I desperately need you to bring your comments because I forgot my notes this morning. I wrote them on paper. You don't ever write your notes on paper today's age. You leave paper. You can never leave the cloud.
Never leave your glasses.
Henri's being Henri over there. Well, I don't know if that's true because it's not. Tell everybody else to come in here too while you're over there. All right, guys, if you want to make your way in here, we're going to get started. We have been doing kind of this theme here in the forum of the thou shalt nots in modern Christianity. And last week we talked about dancing. Before that, we talked about smoking, or not smoking, drinking. Things. It's coming up. It's on the list. So when I kind of looked at the list again after our first week, we kind of talked about what we could have on this list. A few of them we've kind of talked about before in the forum, and some of them, most of them fit the thou shalt nots, but a couple of them were kind of on the edge. So I boiled it down to probably still a dozen or more topics that we'll get to talk about. But today, we're going to talk about gambling, and I warned you about that last week. So I hope you thought about it and maybe studied about it a little bit, because here's the deal. I wrote my class notes on paper, and I don't know where they're at. I think they're at the house. So I don't know what we're talking about today, so you guys need to help me out with good comments and good scriptures. Because when it comes to gambling, I think this is another one of those that we've talked about, and we've shared how they can either come from Scripture, or they can kind of come from man, or sometimes they're a hybrid of both, right? And I think gambling is kind of right there on the fine line of coming from man and coming from Scripture, hybrid of both. It's kind of right there on the fine line of that, right? And the reason I say that is, you're welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, but who knows the verse, the Scripture, that says gambling is a sin? Sure. Okay, we're going to talk about money a little bit, because that's our modern context of gambling, at least, right, Nancy? Thou shalt not covet. Okay, what does covet mean? Want something that is not yours. Desire something that's not yours. Well, let's take a look at our modern context of gambling here for just a second, because I think it's kind of important. So, I'll get you next. Dave. Do you have a comment? Let's go to Dave here first.
Always.
Yes. That's why I think the most important is for us in modern day. So, if you think about our modern gambling, I'm saying there's probably a difference between what we're talking about and what the first century church would have been talking about if they were talking about gambling. Okay? So if we look through the Bible, we can find things like gambling. Probably the term you're going to find is casting lots, right? We see that throughout the Old Testament, occasionally throughout the New Testament. A couple that come to mind are actually not necessarily negative things. On the more negative side, you see the soldiers casting lots over Jesus' garments for his possessions, basically there at the cross, right? Dennis, did you have something? And on a really positive note, right about there in the same time frame, After Judas is out of the picture, the apostles select Matthias by casting lots, right? Those would both be Matthew's scripture, the end of Matthew. But so that's kind of the casting lots in the New Testament. I'm not saying you can't find bad examples of it either, but let's bring it to our modern context. Is that what we're doing? Are we trying to select somebody by leaving it up to chance? Or are we going like what Nancy's saying, when it comes to our modern gambling, are we talking about something completely different? Yeah. So at its very best, when it comes to modern context, it is an expensive form of entertainment, right? Okay, and now let me finish it. And I'll come back to you here. At the very worst, you're saying it can ruin families, ruin people. Yeah, bring me down a little. There. I'm the one that says wireless. Whatever you want. So, at the very best, if you're prudent, it's entertainment. At the very worst, you can ruin your whole family on it. And I'm talking about the modern context. All right, Terry.
That's David and I.
Okay, so you're saying it's not necessarily expensive.
Watch the people.
Yeah.
So I think
Absolutely. And we've kind of talked about that in a few different ways of kind of a discernment topic, right? You have to discern where you're at because with a lot of these topics, like Nancy was saying, the fact that they can be addictive, sometimes the discernment line is difficult depending on family background, your own. Kim?
if you get one of
Depends
those,
who you ask on the internet.
if you get one of those fake things, put a stamp on it, and you just gamble.
Send the stamp back?
Support children who come to the door and knock belly.
Never won Joel's snowblower. $50 on tickets. All right. Jen. So self-control is, man, we're going to get to talk about that here in the coming. Self-control is kind of a hard thing to define at times. But even on drinking, like we talked about, self-control, if we really had that down, drinking, if we really had self-control down on gambling, gambling would not be an issue. Like Terry was saying, it could just be kind of a form of entertainment if that's your thing, right? But in the human factor, we garden, self-control, that was even a self-control issue. All right, Sandra? Here's a little interesting nugget I found, and I had script. You guys can find me some while I'm talking about VPs. Is really anything up to chance? It's all God's choice anyway. Have you ever really thought about that? I mean, people could probably argue with you two different ways on that, right? But if you put something up to chance, that's how what we call it, you know, luck of the draw in our. Doesn't God have a choice over that anyway? Or either he doesn't, either that, or he doesn't have a choice, he'll still work it out. Right? I don't know. I kind of wrestled with that a little bit while studying through. Go for it, Sandra, if you have this. That fits perfectly. Basically saying, really, what do you have? And you boast about what you have, even though you don't have it because it's tough. So, I think aspect, and people would disagree with me and argue with me. Welcome to. I think the aspect of chance is not the most troubling factor of gambling. So I think you know, leaving it up to chance is not the part where we can stumble most easily. Nancy? Not always. I've had this conversation. It's funny, like, if you give a topic ahead of time, I have the conversation times before they get. But not always is that the case. But Nancy's right? Talking about how it's like the people that don't have the money to blow the money, whether you're talking about gambling or purchasing, whatever it might. But now we're stepping into the territory that I think is probably the hick for us in our modern money. Nancy started off with greed. We have a gambling that's not just about the chance, but it's about the chance to win money in almost all circumstances. Whether it's money, a snowblower, a new Corvette, I don't know, what other sweepstakes do you guys enter? You know, even credit card companies kind of do this too. We'll give you rewards. Rewards is just another good terminology for a prize, right? So there's a lot of business marketing behind the money, prize behind the. That's where Americans in our modern culture kind of trip. Nancy?
Everybody. Somebody is.
All right, let me just clarify something here. You guys got to choose a different word if you're going to have this conversation. Because the definition of gambling is playing a game of chance for typically money. The definition of gambling has nothing to do with if it's more fair or not. Okay, so I'll let you go on that nugget. Henri. Yeah.
And play my. And they gave me all the drinks. I got milk, I got orange, and I got hot free. But I think I'm a game player. I love games. Game. A lot of people. Family. Game. But hey, I had fun because I played
Like it.
and as a kid, but
Absolutely.
it was when you recognize that there were people in the cards.
Yeah.
But it was still fun, and I could work my dollars out to figure them down, and I ate out the meal. So it's to me. It's quite.
Absolutely. And again, I want to talk about money the most here. You can look all sorts of directions online, even in reputable places, right? You can look over sermon outlines for gambling, sermon outlines against gambling. You can look at commentaries of all directions because, like I said, there's not, we would be a mess if there was a scripture. Thou shalt not. Thou shalt not. Whatever it might be. But some people like to hang out in the fact that it is entertaining, that they do give you free drinks, that it is a game. They're like, if you're drinking more than milk, you're going to be drunk if you are going to the casino.
I thought it was I wanted milk. They gave it to me.
Hey,
Because I would sit there and
I like
take
the
my money,
free
they
drinks.
would give me.
And so they'll take you down all those roads, and then you're about 45 minutes into their paper, and you're like, wait a minute, we're not even talking about the root of it anymore. We're not talking about the love of money or greed or trying to control your life. Those are things that really get us in our modern context. Dennis, did you have a comment?
And also, that it's always in the problem. When we go or not, go hunt, stay. Ribs on I don't someone out there.
Yeah. So that's why I wanted to kind of point out this idea of chance, because sometimes people get really, really the dredges of chance is a problem. and we even started that here at the beginning. Is investing wrong? Well, if you're looking at the chance side of yeah, saying taking a game of chance or something along that line, investing would be totally wrong. If you look at it from a money side of things, be that wrong because you should hopefully grow your money as long as you're not so stuck on that's what you're worth, right? You could say it about anything. You could say it about driving your car. You could say it about going to work. You could say it about taking a left or a right at the stoplight. I think God might have more control than we give him credit for, but also on the other side of that, God's going to let us have the will to make it all right. So I think the part that's really, really difficult in our culture is the fact that it is all about the game. You don't go gambling. Most people don't go gambling for the entertainment. Being honest, you can. I have. You guys have. I think other people have, right? I'm not that entertaining to me. Too tight-wadded for that. Although, that first lottery ticket, I made $5 back and bought the second one. I was all out of the 20 I started. No fun. So, I really like the game, but I don't like losing. Maybe that's a problem I have. But, because, it's all God's money anyway. But when we focus on the money aspect of it, what are we taught in Scripture? Taught to make money our God. You cannot serve two masters. You'll find this in Matthew, right? You cannot serve God and money or God and mammon. One will be destroyed. Harold's bystander. Courtney? We are. We don't use technology often, but in our modern context, oftentimes we make money our treasure. We make it what this world is about. The reason for that is because so much of our life runs on it. But also we have to make money. We have to be more successful. The only way we can know you're successful, have the nice house, the nice car, you buy money, right? And Scripture warns us very clearly that we need to put our hearts in the right place. Matthew 6:21, wherever your treasure is, there your heart will be also. This is not just a tangible asset, but this is now a heart, spiritual. Heart means so. Putting our heart in our money, that is a culture.
Brothers, one of the guys that took risks. Bad guy in this. I'm guy.
Yeah, I think the money aspect is the part that challenges us. What I was reading from there also is probably a great group of scripture. Chapter 6. You'll find the two masters, and also where your treasure is, your heart will be. Matthew chapter 6. But we kind of have this hyperfixation on money in our culture. Bring in the game of chance, and you combine the two. That's really what we're talking about. We're not talking about casting lot or giving a chance for God to direct us. That's what they were doing. We're saying, hey, we don't know how to choose. God chooses. That's not what we're doing when we're talking about our modern context. What we usually are talking about is, I want to make some more money because I don't have enough. Or I want to win this prize because I want it and I don't have it. Or I need a better one. More of it. So that's where gambling comes into our modern context. It's not just also our heart show. Our heart full or desire of growth. Nancy, did you have another comment on that? Because if you have, you can say it. Okay. Terry? No comment. 'Cause that was kind of Nancy's comment too of sweet.
No, what I'm saying. Buy tickets. Much at all. So there is. What am I gonna?
And it's even if you went to right heart, saying I'm not making a prohibition because you could go to a casino of the right heart and still win lots of money. You ever thought about that? Say, I just want to go have a good time. About $40, and we're go, and then you win $2,000. You win $2,000, and that doesn't make it wrong now that you won. But will it change your heart for next time?
Always one. Would they?
How would they know? That's
Well,
my
you
question.
You tell them.
Oh, okay, okay, sure. That's hilarious because I've been in the opposite meeting before where sitting there talking about a building project. Well, we can't build the building yet because I haven't won the lottery. And we all laughed. Said, no, we're trying. The rest of us went, is that how we're going to build this building? Like, huh. All right, I had another comment over here. Dennis and then Courtney.
Financial. That wouldn't. All said. Non-Christian go to the same. Bucks. God on their side.
I don't know, right? I mean, if God so chooses, you could do that, couldn't you? I mean, we don't have to. Now I'm going the full other side. This is not where I was prepared to go. So yeah, and, you know, and I've been in college groups. And it's a very fun college group thing, right? It's fun games like we were talking about, but some people might mind even if bills you're gambling plastic chips or whatever, and it's lesson. All right, Henri.
All kinds of government. Every time he thinks, oh, what they are money. Oh, okay.
That's a tough line because I struggle with that one, right? First off, I don't love government mandated gambling programs, but at the same time, we kind of need them. And at the talk about retirement, like I want to be prepared for the, but I have no idea that it'll exist, right? Then you go the opposite direction. I want to be prepared for death, but I probably will never
So
die.
you're gambling either.
Either way, right? If I have life insurance or if I have retirement, why do I have both? Interesting, right? So that's up to chance. I'm not saying it's gambling as we're talking about necessarily today, but it's up to chance. Go for it. We're off whatever I thought I had anyway. Courtney? I almost wonder, I noticed this today, on Wednesdays, Brown Coffee has Jones investors and what's happening in the market. And I almost wonder if the hearts of those, I kind of wanted to go talk about, I almost wonder if the hearts of those are kind of the same as the hearts of the, we can put our treasure in whatever it is that we play, whether it's a chance or we think it's not a chance. I mean, talk about the stock market right now. I think most everybody here would say, yeah, that's not a great chance. It is later, but right now, there doesn't feel like a great chance. Might feel like a better chance to go, But it's all about the heart, isn't it? Courtney has a very important part here. If we decide that it is a black and white issue and there's an answer that will not be in the presence of gambling, talked about, can't even go to the restaurant with the bar, can't even go to the gas station. I grew up in Montana, every place. Can't even go to the gas station. Can't go to the restaurant. So how are we ever going? We're too afraid to go to where they are. It's important. Sometimes they're not always in the right mindset. But if we're not there, we can never be seen. Jordan, did you have a comment? Courtney? All right, Nancy? All right, we'll go to Kim. I've got like 3 half hands. Yeah. Correct.
It's just a grew up as a young kid in my dog track with some courage and as I can there and I grew up at national ones that took me in as their and they joking with me, it's hard. Weren't the ones that were housing back, drink left and right. They were being very diligent in how their game, their sport, whatever, that was their income.
I have a couple of, if I call them professional, but my professional poker player friends, and like I can't even $1,000 on one whatever. Like man, very serious. This is their job. All right, Courtney.
But either make right. Maybe. Must.
Not here though.
We
Not here.
just slapping in your face. You're ugly.
So, I want to say one more thing. I'll let Dennis. I'm not saying, and I don't think anybody's saying, you have some other reasons anti or pro something very strongly. Might get into that a little bit more when, if and when we talk about politics. Have convictions of your own. I'm not saying you can't be. Think that specifically down at culture, down at that's usually where people think that. I think that casinos build up a community, and they actually have built some houses. That too, trying to make those personal thoughts a spiritual matter. I'm not telling you you can't have personal thoughts. Dennis, go for it.
I look at office. Or payout. 93 go out, or 5 cents go out. Of course, they don't stay. I lose. They, but I have a thing. Really, they. But I thought more than we could, way more, but if goes home with it, like, Billy, you know, you're my friend. You know my wife's troubles, and we can't do that at the casino. So it's safe to go
That's
there.
interesting.
Yeah, I tried telling them Italians that you, wife's,
Right, they're a business.
you're out of luck. But with a bunch, sat down, together, care of each. It'd make any policy.
And you bring in the business factor of it. Well, side note, so casino, if it gave out money all the time, business, I don't. But if they also won all the time, if the house always wins, it would stop. There's perfect, just like everything. Right? McDonald's places the ads in the right place. Every business. All right, Nancy, last comment, and then we got to leave it up to chance for next. We like to run away from stuff that are paganism. That just means world wars. World wars. So we like to run away from that, but that's the world we live in. All right, guys, I'm sorry we're out of time. The main thing I want us to take home is look at the heart. Just like we talked about on drinking, look at the heart. If your heart wants to be consumed by greed when it comes to money, do that by gambling, no doubt. But if your heart wants to be consumed by greed, you can do it in a lot of other ways too. Do it by trying to climb the ladder until you've missed your entire family. Do it by investing. Do it in so many different ways. But really the point is, as Christians, our heart should be focused on God, not on the gain we can make from money, not on the gain we can make in power, not on the gain we can bring that discernment back to yourself. This was suggested to me. I think this is pretty funny. Let's leave it up to chance for next week.
It's the wrong colors.
Oh yeah, I could change the colors, or maybe I didn't try to. Oh no. Oh no. All right, we'll talk about drugs next week.
I'm not here next week. You have to move it. I'm not.
You guys want to let Kim have a re-roll? Man, we're not sticking to the real chance very well here, are we? Watch it land on the same exact thing. This is how casinos work, everybody.
Third time's a charm.
Okay, I don't know.
It's rigged.
Your software is.
That's interesting.
Well, I guess that's
We'll see if it does it differently down here. How often does the house win? We shall see. Okay, there you go. Yay! Yeah? I think I had that Ecclesiastes verse. All right, guys, that's the new topic. Way less heavy than drugs. Woo. Thank you. Kim, it's not a little Better just come, I guess.
I'll be your number.
Video it. Gotta go. How are you doing? Sorry, you came in the middle of our discussion. There we go. We're open to it. Cool. To get started, we're not very punctual. That's kind of our whole thing. Started at our normal have a discussion Bible section. So that's what we were doing. We didn't come in the middle of anything crazy. But yeah, we can get started a little bit. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. When the crowd mics are on for hard to get out. Okay, cool. Go to run tech today?
Because they live